We all know that ancient Egyptians excelled in every walk of life, and among these fields that the ancient Egyptians have excelled in is the field of astronomy. Today we're going to talk about the field of astronomy, the science of astronomy at the ancient Egyptians' time, and we're very delighted to have with us Dr. Bassam Shammaa, author of Egyptology. Good morning, Dr. Shammaa.
Good morning to you.
A very good morning to you, Doctor.
Good morning to you.
Ancient Egyptians and astronomy. Let's have a quick overview just to wrap up, link between last week's session and this week's session.
Heavens in ancient Egypt was the ancient Egyptians' person's TV. So after sunset, what are you going to do? There is no TV.
Look at the sky.
You're going to look at the sky. You are going to study the movement of the planets and all those heavenly bodies, all those celestial bodies, and you are going not only watch and not only stargaze, because that was a job in the temples, the stargazer. There will be a priest who's going to be taking care of that business of movement of those bodies. But it was life. For him and for her, if they couldn't or didn't study the movement of stars, planets as well, also the Milky Way, to the point that they studied the Milky Way. Actually, they named it. They named it a name. They called it Wernes. Now, we know the Milky Way is the most amazing group of stars, reaching 100 billion stars in one collection, including our solar system, including Earth. Out of all of these, there is a star that is the heroine of the Egyptian civilization. And it is still sparkling bright in our heavens till today. This star is called Sirius star, with an S, S-I-R-I-U-S, Sirius. It's the dog star, and the ancient Egyptians studied it and gave it the name Spedet. So Spedet was the heroine of the ancient Egyptian civilization. The reason is that he noticed the helical rising. There is something in astronomy, as you well know, called the helical rising, which is take a star in, let's say, the eastern horizon. And they found out that this star appears very, very briefly before dawn in a certain day. And from that appearance or rising, if you like, that star will start to appear earlier each day, and it will stay longer each day. So the first appearance of Sirius would be short, brief, and before dawn. After this, it will go further than dawn, and it will stay more. All the way until it disappears for 70 days and reappears briefly before dawn, and so on. This cycle was studied by the ancient Egyptian. And they knew that this star will appear without fault after disappearing for 70 days. The most amazing phenomenon to the ancient Egyptian, and that is the phenomenon that I would say easily controlled his social daily life to that extent, is that Sirius the star, Spedet, comes on the 70th day after disappearing with the flooding. So I would know when is the flooding coming to my land if I figured out when exactly the first day that Sirius disappears in. So let's say you are in the fields, both of you, and Sirius disappeared tonight. So let's count 70 days to the 70th day when the flooding will arrive to my land. Now, of course, that's crucial.
It
right?
controlled everything, agriculture, livelihood,
You name
the
it.
calendar, everything.
Calendar, seasons, agriculture, seeding, sowing the seeds, harvest, building your house, putting your valuables in a place,
Exactly.
because this flooding was going to come and sweep everything. So you would like to get every valuable thing out of your house, put it somewhere higher, take your cattle. So crucial for him to study that, and he did. And Sirius became mentioned in many texts. He also studied planets, and that was pretty amazing to people who are reading in history, because how are you going to study a planet in ancient Egypt without telescopes? And they named it the most amazing term, stars that never rest. Stars that never rest. How did they know? Here is another question. that is unanswered to us. To the point that by the Middle Kingdom, we are sure, talking 1900s BC, the ancient Egyptian named 5 planets, at least, which is an amazing success in the world of astronomy.
Of course.
One of these planets was the god of the morning. That's how they called it. We call it Venus. So they studied Venus. You want to be more impressed? They studied another planet and they called it the Red Horus.
Oh, wow.
Mars.
Mars.
And you name it after thousands of years, the red planet. Because Mars, as you well know, can be figured out by naked eye without telescopes as it is red or orange in color in heavens while you are walking in the street. Today, you can see Mars. If you are walking down the street, a certain time, a certain angle, you can see it red. You will find a reddish or orangey color planet in the sky. The sun, because it was the solar power of life to the ancient Egyptian, was Ra. And that's why when we were here in this very same studio on the 21st, when we were watching and gazing at the genius of the Karnak temples, when the 2 pylons were built precisely to be enclosing the beautiful solar disk in between, rising between the 2 hills of primeval life, all that cult and all that religion in ancient Egyptian temples. And we were watching this and we were thinking, why is he celebrating a celebration called the Big Ra? The ancient Egyptians had a feast called the Big Ra, the large Ra. Why? Because the sun is closer to Earth, so it's bigger. So this is true astronomy. Because you name winter solstice and summer solstice. What's solstice? Solstice is originally Latin from sol, sister. Sol, sun. S-U-N in Latin. Sister means standing still. So you think to yourself, what? The sun standing still? Yes. Yes, it does.
How come?
How come? It will stand still for very few number of minutes in this phenomenon so that it can start doing the conversion of the direction. That's why we call it in Arabic al-inqilab, al-shitwi, because inqilab is an Arabic word for turning things upside down. And that's what the sun does. And that's why the 22nd, the very same, we were celebrating here on the 21st, remember, in the morning. 22nd of the same month of December was the shortest day of the year. It was 10 hours and 10 minutes. And that's by the authorities of astronomy in this country. They came on newspapers next day, 22nd, and said, this is the shortest day. The ancient Egyptian knew the shortest day, and obviously knew the longest day, which was going to be the summer solstice.
Amazing. But how did the science of astronomy affect their lives and even went into the process of even interfering in other fields of sciences?
Of course, well said. I can tell you easily that astronomy in ancient Egypt was life and death. Take Nabta Playa as an example. I love Nabta Playa. How come this excavation is not turning Egypt upside down? 1974, 1977, last century. A group of Egyptologists and historians passing by their car stopped their car in the way of Awainat Road in our beautiful Nubia in the south, in the desert, in our, western desert. So they stretching their legs, stretching their arms, and they found some blocks of stones scattered around. They looked at it with a certain angle. They found it was a circle. They studied the circle. They found there are stones in this circle, a diameter of 4 meters. So we're talking 4 meters diameter. So they found that that circle is made out of stones which is shorter than others. So they started to study the longer ones. We're talking that high. So they found 2, and on our side 2, and our side 2, and our side 2. We had 8 of the longer ones, of the higher ones. So they started to draw lines. So they drew a line. They found one, they called it gates. They called those 2 blocks a gate. So from one gate to the other they drew, and they found this is true north-south. And they went to the other 2, so we were all expecting east-west. No. Ancient Egyptian is always giving us that genius Nubian, even before it was called Nubia. We are talking this culture. that we are talking about Nabta Playa, this place which was not in our geographical map, that there was no place called Nabta Playa. This excavation gave the name to the place because there was a lake and the rain came down and filled the lake, so Playa is a resort, is a lake, it is a water resort in Spanish. So the foreigners called it this way, they called it Playa. And Nabta is the name of the mountain, the Nubian mountain. So it became Nabta Playa. And it started to be placed on our maps. It's pretty amazing. So they found out that the other two gates are not west-east. You'll be amazed. It was 70, angle of 70 degree east of north, which is directing you by this genius culture which came before the pyramids, which came before the obelisks, which came before writing, thousands of years, even before unification of Upper and Lower Egypt. It was a science, and pretty amazing enough, this science was giving us that this 70-degree angle is showing you where the sun is going to rise on the 21st of June. With our calendar today, if you want to compare, 21st of June. 21st of June is the first day of the sun.
Okay.
This culture in the south, this Nubian southern culture of Egypt at that time, knew when the sun is going to come, the first day of the summer. And that is affecting their life. Why? Because if they couldn't study this, they would die. This culture wouldn't stay 2 days. Because the 3 wells which were found there, if they dried up, if you use them, you die after 48 hours because this is one of the hottest spots in Africa. So they had to have